Cleveland Sellers give us a tour of Orangeburg, bus tour, and we got off and learned lots there. Went to the bowling alley where they had a protest, and then they also learned a lot of leadership skills, etc. So it is my absolute pleasure to present to you Deja Freeman. Just wave. Jordan Wilson and Kennedy Cleckley. And then we have, oh yes. And then Vivian Anderson, the founder and CEO of Every Black Girl, is also here. So we're going to screen the trailer of a film called Push Out, based on a book by Monique Morris that discusses basically how we push out young black women and girls from schools. And then we're going to discuss a little bit about what life is like in schools for these kids. Y'all want to? Okay.
This video went viral, but incidents like this can be found throughout America. The criminalization of black girls in schools disrupts one of the most important factors in their lives: education. I would like for schools to become locations for healing so that they can become locations for learning.
These young women, they are pushing up against racism, sexism, classism, homophobia, xenophobia.
I've asked girls if they felt that teachers were afraid of them. And some girls will say yes, their teachers are afraid of them. And then they laugh, because why would an adult be afraid of a child?
And the word of the week is condone. Condone us.
As a nation, talking about the school to prison pipeline for black boys and Latino boys, but absent of that conversation was how girls of color and black girls in particular were being impacted.
What that then did was send the message that what's happening to girls isn't necessarily a crisis.
What's crazy is that there are 300 girls in this school. Good majority of girls here are black, and they go through a lot. And I know they go through a lot because they're black. They live in America.
My teacher got super duper mad and dragged me by the chair, yelled at the other kids to move, and dragged me all the way outside.
Oftentimes, I'm going to say what they don't see is they just refuse to see black girls as being somebody able to be harmed. My harm can actually be like, come at me and I'm coming for you.
I was known for fighting. I had a big mouth. Like, I would just put up a front like I was so angry. But deep down inside, I was really depressed and I was really sad.
We know there's a higher number of assaults against black girls. They're more likely to be trafficked. They're more likely to be molested. They're more likely to fall into so many different categories that affect their ability to learn.
I actually got caught up with a pimp for like 3 days, but I knew it was like so wrong. Like I just didn't want to be here no more. You push a girl out of school and you push her into the streets. You push her into violence. You push her into trauma.
Whereas I felt like we needed to approach any of our intervention from they are capable, they are strong, they are vulnerable.
It matters.
They are worth protecting.
Even though you think you're doing racial justice work, if you're not talking about girls, you're not doing racial justice work.
The question is whether we believe that certain children need surveillance and policing and punitive responses, and other kids get to explore who they are.
nobody stop us, cause we got the muscle.
So there will be a screening of this full documentary in January at the Nickelodeon, and possibly more screenings if the community calls for it. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys now. And I don't know if all of you know, but the opening bit of that trailer actually happened in Spring Valley High School here in Columbia 4 years ago now. And at least 2 of the cohort from the SCYC this year also went to Spring Valley High School. And these incidences, even though they seem isolated, like every person in the community finds out about it and feels about it.
Okay, so first, can y'all hear me? Because me and Mike have something going on.
Well, we'll cut it on.
Oh, okay, that's good. But no, usually I'm like, I'm loud enough.
Okay. All right, so first I want to say, let's all just like, whew. Like, I don't care how many times, and I was a part of this, I'm always like, I got to take a breath. It's not the easiest thing to hear, see. It's a lot. So just, whew, right? And just starting off, I'm here to just help facilitate, because young people are the only true experts of this lived experience. So what I'm going to ask of each of you is to repeat your name, what school you're associated with, and your first thought after now that you've seen this.
I'm Kennedy Cleckley. I attend Ridgeview High School, and after seeing that, my first thought was just, wow.
I'm Jordan Wilson. I go to Great Collegiate Academy. And my first thought after seeing that is, like she said, wow, but I mean, that stuff happens, but to see it, and it's good that they're expressing it, especially for black girls, because I feel like they don't get enough attention when it comes to, like, I think it's mostly focused on black men when it comes to mistreatment in schools. So it's good that Push Out is doing that. So that was my first opinion about it.
My name is Deja Freeman. I attend Oak Cliff High School. My first thought when I seen this video is, it's powerful, it's important, and I feel like a lot of people need to understand, like not understand, but get a sense of what it's like.
So Deja, I'm going to keep it with you, because oftentimes, is that like a new phenomenon? Is that something that you see? Could you relate to any of those girls' stories?
Excuse me, I'm not hearing well. Could you speak up, please?
So the next question I'm going to ask the young people is this something that's familiar to them? Have they seen it at their schools? And could they relate to any of the stories that they heard from the girls in the documentary?
I can relate to, one of the young ladies on there was saying how they acted out in school because they were depressed and stuff, and I feel like that's kind of plays a role in it too, because teachers don't, sorry, I think we're in the batteries now.
Yeah, just hold it.
You were talking about how acting out.
Okay, I feel like society in general they don't take the time to out of their day to ask somebody like, hey, Deja, how are you doing today? What do you feel? Like nobody asks those questions. So I don't know, I feel like females do go through a lot in general mentally already. So I don't know, and going to school dealing with drama and having teachers yell at you and telling you they don't understand like what's going on inside of your head. Like I don't know, and guidance counselors, I'm not gonna say they don't listen, but well, they don't offer solutions to like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I know what I'm trying to say.
Just say it. It don't gotta be fixed any kind of way. Say whatever your heart feels. You want us to come back?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
All right.
I can't relate to any of the females there because I'm not a female, but I can relate to, you know, just I haven't dealt with any experiences when it comes to violence in schools, with racially motivated, but I can deal with, I've had experiences of students and teachers and such just either being racist, either if it's not like trying to be racist but not saying that they're not, or just blatantly being racist. But I mean, yeah, like I said, I can't really relate to any of these girls because I haven't gone through what they have, but I have seen some things, and yeah, that's it.
Like Jordan said, I personally can't relate to the violence that's seen in schools, but I can definitely see where teachers treat other students differently based on the color of their skin, and it's not okay. It's not. And when you brush it aside like it's not happening, it kind of just makes the students build up that anger and not wanting to connect with their teachers or connect with the students around them, because they know, hey, that person's possibly a racist. Even though they don't come out and say it, you definitely see where they can be or where they are.
Thank you.
And so I want to push the envelope just a little bit, because if we add to this conversation the gender bias, right? So not just race, but gender, because there are times when, especially when you see the full film, all the teachers and some of the incidents that's happened aren't always white adults on black children, right? So what are some of the ways in school that you've seen and witnessed where girls get a different level of discipline than anybody else? You got it.
Dress codes. That's the only thing I can think of. Schools definitely enforce the dress code policy, but they're strict on females. And mainly the people who say something about what the females have on are mostly the men. And I'm not gonna say that it's only men, but yes, it's mostly men. I've had an incident before where a teacher would tell me to go change what I had on because the boys couldn't focus in class because of what I had on. Which I don't feel like females should have to change their appearance because males or other people can't control themselves or police themselves. Yeah.
All right.
Another thing that we saw that came up was the persona and the bias of what a black girl is, right? And so we've seen it even with the 5-year-old that, and this happened, I think 2014 is when this took place, the first one, when the 5-year-old girl was handcuffed because she had a temper tantrum in school, right? And so there are times when it's just like, black girls are loud, black girls are aggressive, black girls are this. But their counterparts can have that same outburst and are treated in a different manner. Is this something that you've seen or can relate to and can speak about? Okay.
I've definitely, going into my 10th grade year, I've definitely seen as soon as I started a certain class, my teacher already had the mentality that most of the black girls in our class were loud, rude, and disruptive to the class. And it was hard for us to start learning in that class because we were always sent out of class for doing this or doing that. But if a Caucasian wants to do it, it'd be like, hey, can you just quiet down? She threatened us a couple times to put in a referral, but we didn't see where we personally had done anything wrong.
And I wanted, questions from the audience to really engage. But one of the questions would be, because Deja said counselors don't give the advice on how to move or solutions. What would be a solution that you're looking for? And what would that have looked like?
I think the first solution, probably just to acknowledge what's going on in our school. Because we kind of just see it and we just go about it like nothing's happening. But if we acknowledge that it's happening and then move forward onto ways we could change it, then I think we'd have a lot more connections with our teachers, the students, and administration.
I don't know. For me, it would just be the list. Because sometimes, for me personally, I do talk to my guidance counselor, but she hears me, but she's not hearing me. Like, she's not, listening pretty much. That's all I feel like could change. I don't know. It'll help the relationships too between even teachers. Like, even having a teacher that listens would be, sufficient.
Okay, I'm about to open it up, I promise y'all. What would it take for you to feel heard? Because you said she hears you, but she don't really hear you. So what does it look and feel like to be seen and heard? Yeah, and I know it's like all these folks, it's early in the morning, got all these folks looking at you, but we're just having conversation, and oftentimes we'll go give prescriptions for you versus let you lead the way on how we need to move, right? And so you have a whole lot of people in this room who hold different positions, and I'm gonna call it positions of authority, right, in different ways. Here's your time, right, really to because they're here because they really wanna know. They really wanna know, how can we shift this paradigm? What can we do? So what would you tell them that they can do? Anybody can answer.
I just think that when it comes to talking to whether it's teachers or staff or even parents or guardians, I think that sometimes they don't take us as seriously as they should. I think that they take it, but I think that they take it with oh, I've been through worse, or, it's not that bad, or, something like that. So I think that even with, that shit is just, I don't think that they think that they can't really relate with our experiences because they've had worse ones. And I think that instead of, trying to say their experiences on us and take, their previous experiences they had, they should take into account what we're dealing with and, listen and, actually take seriously what we're saying.
All right, I'm gonna open it up to the folks who really want to know some answers from you. Any questions?
So these kids did come to a meeting in North Columbia this summer, and when they were in the cohort, and they each had 2 minutes, and none of the grown-ups could talk, and they each had 2 minutes to tell us about what we're missing, and they said, you count us out. We're not involved in the conversation. Lots of times organizations do things for families. Teens aren't trying to hang out with their younger brothers and sisters. But I do, can you tell us what the in-school and out-of-school suspension and detention is like in your schools?
She wants you to elaborate.
Do you have any experience with the in-school or out-of-school suspension in your school?
I definitely have a lot of experience. Eau Claire, I don't know.
Just tell us one time, if that's okay. Yeah. What you've seen or your own experience, if you're comfortable with that. Because this is part of the push out, right?
This is part, yeah, this is the form for push out. And they are really here to listen. There is no judgment.
Okay. In my 9th grade year, I got suspended in summer school because 3 females decided that they wanted to jump me in summer school, and it wasn't my fault because they approached me, and I still got expelled. I moved to a different school. They put me in a different school, in a completely different school zone, while the other girls got to stay at the school. That's pretty much what I think of.
Hi, thank you for sharing and being vulnerable in that moment. I do have a question for kind of each of you, and it's kind of the magic wand question, where if you were to do something really bad at your school, right, what would be the perfect scenario? So if a guidance counselor or a principal came and responded to that incident, how would you want that to play out?
Well, I think first I would like to explain my side of the situation, of what happened, and at least, I mean, I would take my part of fault into whatever the situation was, but I think that I would set my part of the situation and try to give best reason as to why I did what I did, and hope that they would actually listen and maybe get some feedback from the other students and teachers or whatever else to make sure that the situation is handled the best it could be, handled.
Okay, oh, I'm sorry, you're not.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you.
Oh, you're agreeing, okay. I have a statement and a question. First of all, thank y'all. Do you think that it would be empowering for you to have some understanding or some history around why things are the way they are? For example, we already have done enough studies to know that teachers can and do have bias. So would it empower you to know that and have those facts so that when you see it, you recognize that, oh yeah, that's what that is, and I'm not crazy. This person really might well have a problem with me because they have a problem with the color of my skin or my gender. Do you feel like things like that would
make you feel more empowered, because you can hang your hat on them and be able to say, oh, maybe this is what's going on, or be able to tell your classmates or whatever, this might be going on, or this is going on, and then be able to move up the chain and say, hey, this teacher or this counselor cannot hear me because he or she cannot get past her lens of what she's seeing, so she can't see me. Or this male cannot get past his issues with women, therefore he needs to look at what he's looking at me sexually instead of looking at me as a child, as a young person. So I'm asking you, do you feel like if there was a way for you to know the history of some of this stuff, do you think it would help?
I think it would be important to know the history of the background of all of that, but at the same time, I feel like if we were to know and then we tell someone in a higher place, what would be done after that? Because you have, these teachers, they're all about sticking together, we can't turn on each other, but so that's where the students start falling into, we can't tell adults anything. So I just would like to know, if we were to do that, what would be the next step?
I think I would like to ask that person, like where that bias comes from. Because I know for some people, it just comes from their family and their past, their beliefs, and then they take on that same belief. So I would like to, or if they've had an experience, or, I just want, them to know, we're not all the same thing. We don't all, just because you had an experience with one person doesn't mean that we're all the same way. So I think that it'd be important for them to know that, because I know that a lot of people just have bias, whether it's just what they see on the news or, what they hear from other people or whatever, just to know that we're not all the same people.
I do feel like it would be beneficial to know, the background and stuff, but for me, it'd be more so of who would be telling us about it, who would be teaching us about it. Because sometimes the people who are teaching you about it and letting you know about it are the people who are those people. So I don't know. For me, it would just be, and sometimes you can't have conversations like that with a Caucasian person sometimes, because maybe us being, me, I don't know. I'm not saying it would make me feel uncomfortable, but sometimes it's just like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I just want to know where the message would be coming from, because to hear it from different people, even whether it be any kind of race or hearing it from different races, I feel like that'd be, that would help too.
Okay. First of all, I just want to tell you young people that I appreciate you being here, and I want you to know from my perspective to you guys that you guys have all of the knowledge, the grace, the poise, and the goodness that I seek and everyone in this room should be seeking. So thank you for sharing with us. And my question is, just from you guys' personal perspective, is there any human in your school that you could go to that would be a soft landing, that you could go to and say, this is what's happening with me, and then trust that they're going to be safe with that information? And if not, what would it look like for them to create an environment for y'all to feel that way?
Well, the first part of the question for me is a no. For me, I don't really confide in other people with my problems, but I feel like I can help other people. So at my school, we do have this mentoring program where the seniors mentor the freshmen, but they stopped it, and I don't know why. But I feel like I could be somebody that people confide in, but I don't think that I'll ever be comfortable enough in my school to find somebody to find me.
I think when it comes to, at least as for adults, no, there wouldn't be anyone I can confide in. I guess when it comes to in school in general, I guess my friends, kind of, but I mean, I don't know. I think it would be nice if there was someone like an adult to be able to talk to, but I think just, like I said earlier, I think they just don't take it as seriously as they could. Like some people, you know, they kind of take it seriously, but I feel like a lot of teachers and administration, you know, they act like they care, but really they don't. And, you know, being able to shake that would be kind of hard, so I just think, you know, it'd be hard to talk to anyone, especially an adult, about that type of stuff.
Personally, I do have a teacher that I feel like I can go to in certain situations. And at my school, we have multiple men and women mentoring groups, but they're kind of just like clubs to say you're active in. I don't see where they actually are active in helping the students and giving the students a safe place to go to. So I say if they were more active, then there will be more of a safe place for the kids who are part of the groups.
Thank you, guys. I have a question for the students and for you, Vivian. If you could give us as adults some ideas or tools about how to help, how to work through this situation with students, and I think maybe from an adult perspective, working with kids, when I was a kid, things were so different, and it's taken me a long time to finally go, things are different from when I was a child. And so my expectation is kind of what I did as a child, where you come in, you're quiet, the adults are in charge, you don't speak up, you know? So if you could just tell us of the new way that we should try to work with you all young people so that we can have better relationships, I think, is what I'm looking for.
I know you're gonna hear this a lot, and I would say listen, but I'm gonna explain a little bit about that. I just think like, and I know I've been saying this a lot, but just be able to take us seriously. Like I know when we went to a center at a park and we were able to talk to police and other adults, and if I felt like, and I think I can say for all of us that we all felt like we were actually being listened to. You know, they were taking notes, they were responding to what we were saying, you know, like it felt like we were actually being listened to and we got responses from it. So I think, you know, just being able to listen and like actually being like, take action about what we're actually saying instead of just be like, okay, and like kind of think about it but not actually really do anything, you know?
The only thing I can say is patience. I don't really know how to elaborate on that, but I don't know. Please be patient. The students nowadays definitely, like Jordan said, they just want to be heard for their ideas and their thoughts on certain things that are going on in the classroom, going on outside of the classroom. So,
yeah, I want to like go back in the way, and I know you weren't framing it that way, but oftentimes the first thing is the child did something bad. So we already start qualifying behavior. So one of the first things is look at the child, not the behavior, or look into the behavior. Like, you know, I tell everybody one of the main reasons when I saw the video, and, you know, so the backdrop of my story is that I saw the video, I was living in Brooklyn, I couldn't sleep. I came down here because I was like, I just want to hug her and her classmate. I just want to hug them. Well, and I saw all those kids in the room who also had to go through trauma because that was something to watch, right? And like, what does that look like, right? But I also was very clear, I was her. I was a child who was chased around the room. I remember like looking over, my math teacher was talking and I was like, I just don't understand. I don't, you know, me and math, praise God. And I couldn't understand, so I reached over and like, I don't understand, what is he saying? And he's like, Vivian, you always doing this, you think you a boy, because I was such a tomboy, but he's like, you think you this, you know what, and you could paddle back then, right? And so I was like, no, what's happening to me at home, Ain't not today. Not today. For everything I've been touched, no, not today. So I refused. But what happened was he got tired, because he literally had to chase me. He got tired and sent me to the principal's office, and a guidance counselor stopped me and said, "Who hurt you?" That changed my whole relationship with school, with adults, because I really thought somebody was trying to see me. And it was the first time I got the hurt to stop, because somebody was like, what's happening in that home? And how can we keep her protected? And so oftentimes we're like, they're just bad or they're just this. If we look at this world right now, with everything that's going on, yeah, our kids are gonna act out. We acting out. We gotta own that they are following our lead. And I think just the fact that you're here, ready to say, what can we do? But don't just make it be, we here ready. I love what you said, Jordan. Like, yeah, what's next? How you gonna follow through? And the follow through. You know, one of the things I was sharing with Mr. Dozier, where is he? I was sharing with him, I was like, I refused to be, when I was traveling back and from New York to Columbia, and I was like, oh, community development and all this stuff, and I was like, I refuse to be a drop-in activist. I'm not about to go in anybody else's community and tell them what they need and how they need to shift systems if I'm not there. So I was like, if I'm about it, I'm gonna be about it, and I'm gonna put my all into it. So what are you really willing to invest? Because so many of these kids, people drop in all the time. Don't be a constant inconsistent in their lives.
Just a quick question. So if you, back to the magic wand question, if there was a rule that you could get rid of at your school, what would it be? Or if there's a rule that you would want to add, what would it be?
I'd take away detentions for tardies. Because like our lunch period is 30 minutes, then we have 10 minutes to get to our next class. But a lot of people, our lunch used to be 40 minutes, so it's been hard to kind of go from lunch back to class in 30 minutes and everything. So a lot of people are tardy after lunch, and then you get to the tardy line, and the line is wrapped around the library basically, and it's hard to get to class, and then by the time you get your tardy slip, you're already late, even more late than you originally were. So I say just forget the tardy line and just go to class.
Wow.
For me, it'll be senior dues. I'm sorry, I'm a senior, and it's killing me right now. Well, let me explain. So we have to pay a set amount of dues every month or every other month to be able to participate in any senior activities, even graduation. And if we don't pay, we can't even go to graduation. So I feel like that's not fair. It's because you don't know what people are going through. So I don't know.
She goes to a public school. She has to pay fees to go to graduation. Can you give a ball?
What do you think in general? How much at the end? How much?
About $300. Yeah.
So grown-ups, y'all can do something about this.
Yeah.
I charge you to do something about this.
That school board elections coming.
That's right.
Come on
now. I think that last question got at something that I was thinking about throughout this conversation, which is that a lot of us are talking about, well, how can we change the people? How can we change the teachers? You know, what if we put one more person in there? I don't work with teenagers. I come from a legal background. I have done a lot of work in human rights. And one of the things I've experienced and seen is compassion fatigue. And I think that there's probably something similar that happens to teachers who maybe start out caring quite a lot, then are overworked. And to turn that into a question, I guess, is it really just about the people? Like, would you feel like if you just swapped out the people, or train them differently, that would be enough? Or are we really talking about something bigger if we wanted to, reach these concerns? I think this is, a conversation that a lot of us in Reform ask and talk about, but I'm really interested to hear, what our actual teams have to say about it.
Yes, I feel like they aren't really prepared. I'm not going to say the curriculum-based thing. They got that part, but I'm talking about like they don't really. Oh my God, I'm so tired of saying this, but they don't really care. Like teachers they barely even teach. So like, they just throw you in front of a laptop and say, hey, go on here and just do this. But I'm talking about like actually care. They actually push you to do your work. Like when students don't do their work in class, you should just be like, okay, that's your grade, not mine. Like they don't actually sit there and be like, okay, so Deja, what's going on there? Why do you don't want to do your work? Like, I don't know.
I think it's both. I think I'm not saying like fire everyone and then replace the whole staff, but like I think that like kind of how you say when it comes to like training and stuff, I think that they should be trained because I think when it comes to training how to deal with students, I feel like I don't really know how to word this, kind of stick with what's been taught for like the past however long it's been taught for, and I think that it kind of needs to be reworked. Like I don't know, maybe there should be some students that come together and talk about what they want when it comes to training and dealing with students and stuff like that. But I just think teachers need to. I'm not all teachers. Some teachers do try, but I think some just need to try more. And I don't know what needs to happen or if they need to talk to the kids or whatever needs to be done. But like I said, I just think it's both. I think that they just need to be retaught, really, basically, just retaught.
I think teachers are taught how to prepare the students academically, but they're not taught how to connect with the students. And which, since they're not taught that, they're kind of just like they just said, they're kind of just there to teach. They're not there to ask you like, how are you doing, or why don't you feel like doing your work today? Because I've never had a teacher who kind of just cared about why I didn't get this done. They kind of just like, oh, throw the 0 in the grade book, it's your grade. But I feel like teachers need to be taught how to connect with their students and form a relationship with their students.
And one of the things that we've been doing with EBG is that, and some, I know, quite a few of my friends know, but I'm really not the blame game kind of person. It's easy to do the blame. And like a lot of folks don't know, like Ben Fields, the officer that was involved, like we've been working with him, like what created that? Could it look different, right? And we've been working with teachers. What are the traumas? Because think about it. You got administration, you got a principal telling administration something, administration telling the teacher something, and all that compounds who gets it. So how do we start, like, I just honestly believe no teacher starts, like, I'm gonna go to school for all these years, get my certification so I can go and hate kids. What happened? What was that piece? What was some unresolved trauma? And most of the folks in that documentary are educators who are having this conversation, right? And so the walls goes up. What teachers often tell me are like, y'all just think we just, and that's a whole nother thing. So nationally, we're saying teachers are wrong, teachers are wrong. Now there are some, there are some who like, it's time for you to retire, or it's time for you. And so some of the questions, like the Disturbing of Schools law, although it's been amended again, it needs to be removed from the books. We should not have a law that penalizes children for being children. That's one, and it's in 26 states, and some states are working to have it removed. Two, we really should start looking at like, what is this whole, what are the ways in which we can support teachers? One of the projects that we're about to start with EBG is they have peace rooms for children, redesigning what the teacher's lounge looks like and having it be a place where, if we're I'm a strong believer, SROs no in schools. That's my belief, and I'm unapologetic about it. And because they're but how, not just social workers for students, how do we have teachers have some place where they can go and say, this is what's happening. I need a 10 minutes because I'm losing control of the classroom and I don't know why. Right? We're talking about taking care of children all day and then coming with whatever I'm bringing, and it's a lot. And so how do we look at the both and not make it just a blame game and say this person is wrong, that person's wrong, that person's wrong. But that's what so it's a whole systems thing to me, where all around.
Right. My comment leads back into systems. Thank you all for being here. I just want to say you all are beautiful. Keep having the courage to speak. When we speak, things change. They may not change immediately, but they can change. I had boys that were disruptive. But you know who got the referral to the office? It was only the black boys. And when I found out about it, I called my boss, because it was in my hometown. I was willing to speak up. And I would just say to us as adults, as professionals, we hear the campaigns like, if you see a backpack at a bus station or at a post office, see something, say something. We need to have the courage and the the integrity to be able to stand up when we see children being wrong, because what happens to them as kids, if it is not addressed, if they don't have people advocating for them strongly to know that I matter, then you grow up thinking that you're not as important as your peer, as your neighbor. And there can be long time ramifications for that. So we collectively, regardless of what we look like, if we see something, we need to say something.
So don't get upset with me. We're going to have 2 more questions. But what I'm hearing is that we need to do this more in depth at a later date, right? Where we spend a lot more time on this at a later date, and so that we're going to make that happen. Okay? So 2 more questions, and I know everybody has one, and I love you all, but it's already covered. Thank you.
I just have a quick question. How many of y'all have administrators of color at your school? I mean, the principal, vice principal, the higher ups, and if not, do you think that would make a difference? And also, when you have had an incident at school that involved racism and you told your parents and they went up to the school, were the parents relieved? Or, I mean, in my experience, they just kind of brush you off because, I've been up there every time and they just brush you off and act like nothing happened. So I was just wondering what y'all's experience with that was.
All the administrators at my school except for one are African American, and there's been one incident in my English class last year where a Caucasian girl thought it was okay to say the N-word, and she just said it, and we let the teacher wasn't there that day, we had a sub, but the next day the teacher did find out, and she was removed from the class, but that was it. There was nothing, there was no apology, there was nothing. She was just taken from the class, and like it never happened. It was brushed off.
When it comes to my administration, as far as I know, most of my administration is white. I know my principal is white, and the guidance counselors. When it comes to racist experiences in schools, like Kenny was saying, I had an experience where we had a substitute teacher in our science class, and some of my friends were, kind of being loud, and so he decided to call them the N-word. And I think he stayed in the class for the rest of that class, and then some of us went to go report him. And he didn't get fired immediately. I think it took a day or 2 for him to get fired. And I don't think any of my parents were involved with it, but I just think that, like she said, there wasn't really like an immediate like consequence for him, even though there should he should have got fired immediately. So.
Well, at my current high school, all my administrators are African American except for one. But at my old school at C.A. Johnson, there was an incident where I got expelled because our social studies teacher, our history teacher, we were already on the slavery unit and stuff. And instead of saying, you know, African American people and stuff, my entire class was African American. And he just kept saying, you people. And everybody was just like, what is he saying? He's like, you know, you nigger people. So I was the only person. I'm gonna take my fault in this. I did, you know, I had to say something because I couldn't have it on my chest. Like that just was not sitting right with me. So I did act out. I had a little episode, and they expelled me, but they did go in and ask the class what had happened and what he had said, and the principals at this time, they were all African American. But I went back to the school to clean out my locker probably like 3 or 4 weeks later, and he was still there. I was like, okay, I just left alone. And I was asking a couple of my friends like last week if he was still teaching and stuff. They were like, yeah, he's still my teacher. I was like, wow. Wow. That's all I can say.
I recently heard a wise old educator say, these young people need to be viewed as important resources in their schools and in their communities, and not as problems to be solved. So, providing opportunities to let these young people solve problems like you're doing today, and hearing their voices and listening to them is, changes, I think, the lens, and would change the lens in a lot of classrooms and with a lot of community organizations as well. There's, as we all know, a huge national, international movement led by young people. And we need to make sure we're providing those opportunities for young people in South Carolina.
So there is an opportunity, and you can help support the South Carolina Youth Collective Summer Fellows Program. It is funded right now generously by the Knight Foundation, so none of them have to pay any sort of fees. Everything is covered completely, but you can sponsor a student. And applications will come up April 1st, and they'll be a week long this year. But I just want to thank y'all. My heart is so big right now. I'm so happy that you shared so much with us, and we will have another discussion. This is not over. And everyone in this room is a resource for you. If something happens, you call us. Okay? All right, so help me thank Summer Fellows, Vivian Anderson. So lunch is next, is in the Conga reading room again, and then we'll come back here to hear from Dr. David Cunningham afterwards. And this is the most anybody has been engaged for the entire conference. You guys are special.
Thank you.